No, they I always start whenever I have podcasts with South Africa. It's always 5 o'clock in the morning. 5 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock your time, 2 o'clock your time works perfectly. I'm a 4:30 awake kind of guy, and 8:50 in the bed, 9:02 asleep kind of guy.
Yeah. You have children?
Yeah, I have children, a 14-year-old boy and a 12-year-old boy, and they are used to it. They are in the bed with us, watching their Goldberg's YouTube video, whatever it is, and Dad turns his light out and turns over, and poof, I'm out.
Okay, perfect. Definitely did something right.
Well, Carlo, Hugo, I'm super happy to have you here. Obviously, not happy about the circumstances of why you're here, but this is the point. That's the reason why we have you here is to create an amplification, hopefully, of your voice and other people's voices in the same world that you live in. So welcome to the Origins Foundation podcast. I'm super grateful to have you both here.
Thank you very much.
Carlo, why don't you start? I want to know a little bit about you. I want to know who you are, where you are, what you do.
Okay. No, Robbie, thanks. Just to give you a short background, I grew up in the northern Natal parts of KwaZulu-Natal province, South Africa, on the east coast, near a small town called Paul Petersburg.
Where is Paul Petersburg? Where is that in relation to anything else?
All right. If you would take Swaziland, the southern part of Swaziland, you will find the small town Pongola, and just to the west of that, on the highlands, you get Paul Petersburg, Vryheid, Dundee, that small settlement there. That is it's a mainly German settlement. They all our ancestors moved there. I'm the fifth generation in that spot there, and you find a lot of German congregations there, church congregations there, named after German cities where those missionaries came from. You know, Braunschweig, Wittenberg, Lüneburg, Augsburg, and so forth. So, yeah, I grew up there on a cattle maize timber farm. After school, went to study nature conservation in Pretoria. Did my practical in the old Natal Park Sport, the NPB. Worked in various reserves there, the Tlhahlubi-Umfolozi Reserve, Mkuzi, Ozabeni down on the coast, and so forth. And then, I was never ever really had it in mind to start a safari business with hunting and so forth. I liked hunting. I did hunting as a child. But then I went to work in Namibia for a year. And on my way there, met my wife on the bus trip there. So that's where my shit started. And then came back and I guided a couple of guys there on this farm in Namibia. And then suddenly just escalated. You know, those guys phoned me back the year after when I was back and said, "Listen, can't you organize something for us in South Africa?" And that was nearly 30 years ago now. So it just went on rolling from there. You know, having a single Isuzu cab pickup, had a plastic covering on the back, and the client sat on a mattress with a dog and the tracker in the back of the vehicle with a bag of salt. With some beers and a cool box full of meat, and that's how we went hunting. And it evolved from there, and building the first guest room, and up to now having 2 game farms with lodges on it. So it evolved, and the hunting business was really good for me. Met some really incredible people, met some people that really supported me, made some incredible friends, and it was I was able to live my dream.
Amazing. And obviously you've had some kids, Hugo being one of them. Any other kids?
Yeah, two daughters, younger than Hugo, who was the oldest. Mia, she just finished school now. She's 18, and then Zoe, she's turning 16.
Amazing. Hugo, you've grown up in the bush essentially.
Yeah, so that's basically the only thing I've known my whole life. the only way I realized it's not the normal way of growing up is going to school in the first grade and everyone would start talking about their school holidays, going to the beach and whatever. And then I would say, for example, we hunted an elephant now. And then they would start phoning my parents and said they'd worried about me because they think I'm a liar. And then my parents would say, why? No, he said he hunted buffalo with this guy in XXX. And they're like, it's true. So no, I was very privileged growing up the way I did. And I think only at a later stage did I really start appreciating it.
It's funny, Carlo, growing up, when a young man grows up in South Africa, I've said this a lot, you want to be like everybody else. You want to be a policeman, you want to be a fireman, you want to be whatever. But young men in South Africa want to be game rangers. They want to look after the bush, right?
No, definitely, but it's. I think it's the whole environment that shapes you. I've always, we have this saying, "Bosbefok," in South Africa. You bush mad, and it's for me it was park sport. Those green pickup trucks with the guys getting out there with the khaki uniforms with the green epaulets. That was my everything, wanted to do the chase poachers around in the fever tree forests of Ndumu forest and catch game. If you grow up in that thing, and but yeah, like I say, hunting, the safari business really opened up a lot of doors, and I'm very privileged to have been hunting all over Europe and seeing so many different places, and that's what so many people just can't understand. If you practice hunting, you get to see so many places that the normal guy would only dream of getting to see. And like I said, I went. One of my biggest dreams was to hunt a bear, and I went this year. I went to Romania and hunted a brown bear there. And it's you get to forest parts or mountain ranges where the normal person will never ever set foot. And that what makes it so special, and that's also always my argument. It's not about physically killing the animal. It's the whole intake that you get around that whole trip. The looking forward to the making your way to get to that spot and getting yourself into that position to be able to harvest that animal is the biggest plus point in the whole thing. The harvesting the animal is just the cherry on top, but it has nothing to do with killing or something like that. It's just being there and having the privilege to be able to do that.
Yeah, you're making a great point. It's funny. I grew up in South Africa. I left when I was 24, so I spent half my life in South Africa, half my life here in the States, and now I get to come back to South Africa twice a year at least, 2 or 3 times a year. I get to see parts of South Africa that very, very few South Africans get to see.
Yeah,
and they're exceptional. Like the place that you guys live, the Mkuzi area, Mkuzi Game Reserve, Pongola area. I don't think many South Africans realize it's almost wild Africa. It's like you can drop somebody in the middle of Mkuzi Falls, and I was there with Gary Kelly in April. I was in Mkuzi Falls, Impilo. I keep messing up the other place's name just down the road. It doesn't matter.
KwaZulu Private.
You drop somebody that lives in South Africa. No, Somkanda. Yeah. That's it. And you drop somebody in those places, and you say, okay, where are you? They could be in the wilds of Mozambique or the wilds of Zambia or the wilds of Zimbabwe. There's places in really in Zululand that are proper wild.
Yeah, I always think the same. Like you said, now I think there's very few places, for example, in South Africa that still have free-range wild dogs. I mean, you'll hear normal game farmers complain the wild dogs are on their side again. And I mean, for instance, now there's a case where, a lion went over a cattle farmer's farm and, there's a lion. I think there's very few places in South Africa where instances like that still happen, and it's almost quite normal to people in that area.
No, you're absolutely nailing it. Yeah, you're absolutely nailing it. Carlo, tell me a little bit about when did you enter into the National Natal Parks Board?
Sorry, you just broke up there a little bit.
When did you enter into the Natal Parks Board?
This was 96, 97.
So tell me, because you're coming into the Natal Parks Board on sort of the back end of the rhino restoration period, right? The rhino relocation period, the upselling of rhinos, getting rhinos back into the landscape. Give me a little bit of insight into the feelings of the Natal Parks Board at the time around rhinos. What was going on?
Yeah, you see, if you must even take it, you're correct there at the back end. If you take back 20 years prior to that, where the Natal Parks Board was famous for was famous for his rhino protection and building up the numbers again. Where rhinos were sent on and were given away to private farm owners. If you had the land for it and you had the right fencing for it, the Parks Board would give to you a population of rhinos, and that's what at the end of the day saved the rhino, because you had these pockets of different herds of rhino all over the place, and they were not concentrated. And if I remember. In the early 1990s, the Parks Board auction, the annual game auction that they had there, Blesbok was there might have been 10 Blesbok there, but there was like 150, 200 rhinos to be sold, and that's how Parks Board really was putting on the map, and they just rhinos were sold all over South Africa. And the sad thing about it is, if you go now, where that auction was a whole festival starting on the Friday, and they had all those boma systems with rhinos standing on bomas, black and white rhinos and everything. The auction these days is an online auction where they sell 40 Blesbok and 100 wildebeest, and maybe one rhino or two rhinos that are on auction. And it's scary to think about it, that the population has gone down so badly. And the second thing is no one wants those rhinos really, because you're buying yourself trouble. And that's the sad part of it.
So Carlo, for somebody who's listening to this podcast, is completely naive to why nobody wants rhinos. Can you just paint the picture? Because obviously you are a rhino owner.
Yes, and
paint a picture for why somebody doesn't want rhinos today.
Yeah, if I can just backtrack a little bit, my biggest reason for having rhino on my property, or one of the main reasons I had, was I wanted to prove to the outside world I'm not just harvesting rhino. I wanted to give something back. So I made a loan. My wife nearly shot me for it, but anyway, I made a loan at the bank, and I bought my first two rhinos on auction, a bull and a cow.
Now, Carlo, just so I know, when you bought those two original rhino, did you have the intent in the future to potentially hunt these rhinos?
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to. That was part of my management plan. As soon as that bull got too old, or the female would get too old, I would harvest that female to subsidize the rest. And through hunting, that's how I built up my herd. The cow gave a calf. It was a heifer calf, so I sold the bull again, got him to hunt. I took that money, bought another two. And that's how I just carried on building up these numbers. So basically, hunters' dollars funded my project. And we in the whole of South Africa, the bulls are always excess. You can't keep on smaller properties more than one or two bulls. They will kill one another. So especially if you put females in between them. So that was my whole plan, my management plan. Through hunting, through subsidies, through people that are prepared to pay for a rhino trophy, I could use that money again, buy another two. That's how I just built up this whole thing. But it got to that point now, I would say the last 10 years, where the whole system, the justice system, the policing system, is just overwhelmed with crime in South Africa. There have been special units, Rhino 9 unit and Rhino units that have been put in place, but there's just no funding. There's more human crime that's more important at the moment for the government to attend. The normal murders in the Cape Flats or violence against women and things like that. So it's not a priority anymore. Yes, they say rhino poaching is a priority, and there are really some good cops out there, and there are some people, judges that do their part in convicting people in the courts. But our local guy that deals with rhino poaching, he's got a stack like that of dockets that are not resolved, and there's just no manpower, there's no money to do it, and at the end of the day, it is a financial burden. Even for me, years ago, I didn't have a security guard on the property. I had one guy checking the fences every day, or just walking through the property. But these days, it's a full-fledged war. It costs you a lot of money, because if you sleep one evening, they're coming, and they're hitting us from all sides. And even it was on a full moon phase was always the danger part, between 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock the evening. But these days, the poachers have the same technology that we have. They have thermos, they have high-powered rifles that are set in, they have drones. We even get it now that they fly with drones over your property to pinpoint the rhino where they are. So it's not being a case of checking the rhinos in the morning and counting them in the evenings. It's basically you're going to have a guard on the rhino's ass 24 hours a day. That's where we're getting to. Or we're going to have to remove them out of natural areas, like where you've been down there in Zululand, put them on a flat open area like in the Free State, where you can have a fence around them and you can monitor the fence the whole time. And that's where it's getting down to. And the second thing is why are people scared to have them? These poachers are getting the demand is so high that they will end up attacking you on your property if they know you have some dehorned horn in your house. Or we had an instance now about 6 months ago where a farm not too far away from me, where she has a 3-hectare camp where she feeds her herd of rhinos, and they come in the evening, she closes the gate, and the guards sit there, and the rhinos sleep in front of the guards. And the poachers came in, held the guards at gunpoint, and shot the rhino right in front of the shed. It's crazy.
Jeez.
So they're really getting arrogant.
Yeah, there's no, as you said, it's tough for a rhino landowner to actually look after their rhinos wherein there's no help, right?
Yeah.
Who's helping you, Carlo?
No, it's all private funding that you have to pull out of your own pocket. It's your other industries, your timber and your cattle money that you push in there at the end of the day.
But there's all these huge rhino NGOs out there. Save the Rhino International, Save the Rhino. Are they not giving you money?
Don't get me started on that shit. It's.
I want to hear it.
Yeah. It is crazy. We you saw that video that I posted about the 2 females that got hit, and that guy that made that video, he really climbed in and did some investigation, and he comes across about I think he said something like $3 million that he can pick up from some NGOs that have been donated to South Africa towards rhino conservation. And even like yesterday, I saw on Facebook there was buy a fluffy toy to save the rhino and stuff like that. And but I can't see it. I don't know where this money is going. Honestly, I can't see. You cannot knock on any door. I don't know. There's no address on these NGOs, where you can say, phone me if you need help or something. I can't see it. I don't know who's pocketing the money, but we all know the history of NGOs. There might be some NGOs that are doing their job, but the most of the funding and the donations that they get go towards administrative fees, keeping this company alive. So I don't know. But we need feet on the ground. That's bottom line.
So right now, give us a little sense of an understanding of what your security is for your rhinos. Obviously, you've had rhinos, so you've already alluded to the fact there's videos that we've created. We actually took this big video that Carlo's discussing and knocked it down to a couple of short form reels that you'd be able to see. Carlo, you just hadn't, obviously, let's just address the elephant or rhino in the room, essentially, that you've got 2 rhinos lately that got knocked down by poachers. Both of them were pregnant.
Oh. Yeah, so
but those aren't, but those are 2 of 12 that you've lost over the last 18 months.
Yeah, I would. In the last 18 months, I lost the 10. Okay, plus the 2. Let's make it 12 then with the pregnant ones. And in 2018, I lost 2. So, and it was since 2018 I didn't have a problem with the rhinos, but then suddenly, since they've started dehorning rhinos all over the place in all the national parks and stuff like that, it is they just looking for anything that has not been dehorned. And I've dehorned some of my animals, but the bulls, for example, I do not dehorn because I feel the bull needs that horn to dominate the female. And at the end of the day, the lifespan of that bull is only for a couple of years before he will start covering his own offspring. So you have to then hunt them out. So you will devaluate that rhino if you dehorn it. But they're even going for the smallest. Those last cows that they shot, they were previously dehorned, and they didn't have massive horns on them. It's where they would shoot a not dehorned cow that has 5 kilograms. They will shoot now 5 and add up the knobs that they get of each, and to get 5 kilograms. So it's crazy. It's the best would be to numb get the calf and to numb that growth of that horn completely, that it never grows a horn. That at the end of the day, that would be the ultimate solution if you want to have a breeding herd of rhinos.
Hugo, you're a young guy coming into this world, and it seems very bleak for rhinos. Why are you even bothering?
The thing is, Robbie, I mean, I grew up with them. I've known, the rhino my whole life. And I just think the big thing is, even friends of mine in school that their parents had rhinos and now they're all gone, And I just think as long as we can try not to get rid of them, because I don't want to be able to tell my kids, here were rhino on this property. I would love them to also see the rhino.
But it comes with lots of risk.
Yeah,
no, definitely.
Lots of liabilities.
No, for sure. And at the end of the day, you must ask yourself, put aside the emotional part of the rhino and the passion or whatever like that. But I think in the whole world at the moment, there's a financial crunch going around everywhere. You can feel it even in Europe and so forth. So it's a big investment that you do make. And like I mentioned in that thing is, I'm not a Bill Gates or I'm not a Microsoft billionaire or so, this is hard-earned money at the end of the day. And if you're going to start looking at safety of your family and looking at that kind of picture, the financial picture about that, isn't it better to just sell off the rhinos to whoever wants them and rather concentrate on other game or livestock or plant timber? At the end of the day, I need to get his ass through university or his sister. So, and if everything dies off and what you build up, I just turned 50 now, so I'm not old, I'm not young, but you get to that point in life where you think, another 10 years I'm 60, another 10 I'm 70. So what am I leaving behind? My stubborn ass to think, I'm going to push this through. I'm going to save the rhino. I'm going to put my family to danger. You might end up losing more than the rhinos. You might lose your life, or you might lose your family to say, listen, you're crazy.
Right now, what is your, if you want to say, obviously we know that this is a very public forum. What kind of anti-poaching measures do you have in place right now, Carlo?
We have foot guards that go out in the mornings and the evenings, and they make different time schedules to watch them at night. I purchased some thermo objects, binos and stuff like that we're looking after them, and spending some money trying to pay informers to gather information, and to just to be preventive, to get the guys, to stop the guys before they get into the property. Like you all know, once the bullet has left the barrel, you can't stop it. So we need to try and stop these guys before. But what just makes it difficult is, once again, I'm getting back to the legal aspects of this thing. People getting arrested with an illegal firearm, with rhino horn in their possession, and they get a slap on the wrist and they walk out of jail. And that just makes you frustrated. You're doing all this effort, you're spending money on informers, you're doing all of that, and it's the system is failing.
Yeah, and I absolutely understand the frustration and hear the frustration. I think it's a worldwide issue, and I say that because we just had the chair of the Boone and Crockett Club here in America on, and they've got a program that they've just put in place called the Poachers Pay program. And what they did was a 5-year investigation on the rate of poaching in America. Everyone thinks Africa is the poaching like Mecca. The dark number, i.e. the number that goes undetected in America, is 94%. Yeah, Hugo, exactly.
That's crazy.
They are only picking up 6% of poaching incidences in America. Okay? And the best place that they're picking up, and I can't even remember what their percentage was, I think it was in the mid-20s, 20s or 30s, was in Oregon, where, Carlo, to your point, they have a dedicated prosecution task force that all they do is prosecute poaching.
Oh.
So that, to me, is a great step forward from a justice system perspective, right? In each province, they allocate a prosecution team and an investigative team that all you do, let's even get more specific in South Africa, all they do is rhinos. And when they catch someone, it's not like it sits for 10, 12, 18 months. They've got a court, they've got a justice, they've got somebody sitting there that all that person does is hear cases around rhino poaching. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it, Robbie. That's just the system that I'm talking about. Just to name an example, in 2018, when I had my first poaching incident on my property, we caught those guys, and they went over, got arrested, went to jail. That case is still not closed. They are still being detained.
Wow.
But they have not been served with the sentence. Now there was 4 guys that sat in jail, and the 4th guy, according to information that we got, he died, or he got murdered, or he got slashed in jail. Now, for the last 7 or 8 years, these 4 guys couldn't remember who was the guilty party. But since this 4th guy died now all of a sudden everybody remembers who it was. It was the guy that died. So this case is going to most probably be kicked out of court, because the government will have a conviction. There's 3 witnesses that say it was the 4th guy, and they will walk. It's crazy.
No.
And the other heartbreaking thing about it is, I know you can't, if one person does one thing bad, you can't fight it with bad. But like I say, I just feel you're on a rugby game, or you're on some kind of sports event, and you have to adhere to the rules. You get the red cards if you slap someone, but he can walk into your property anytime and shoot a rhino. He didn't ask you to enter your property, but if you just lift your hand and you, for sure you get frustrated or something like that, and that is the worrying factor that my wife also says. At the end of the day, these rhinos will put you in jail, because you will end up shooting someone because you're going to be angry, or you're going to react in a way that you shouldn't have, and you will be investigated until the day you die. And that's the problem.
Mm-hmm. Carlo, you're a rhino owner on the ground. What's the solution here?
All right, I think it's first of all, like you said, that's the point that the legal system has to be checked up. The investigating officers have to have more power or manpower to do that, and we all, even if Africa doesn't have the money, we need funding. But I'm still standing on that point. Yes, it's all fine. There's some willing companies that will spend money and sponsor money for a rhino protecting project, but we need to make it last. And funds dry up, people stop spending, and things like that. So why can't we, at this point, use the rhino's horn that is on demand and put it on the market, sell it, get the funding, prepare yourself, because there will be an onslaught of poaching, once you open the market. That's for sure, because the criminal ways of exporting and smuggling the horn will just be too easy for these guys, because there's a lot of legal horn then on its way between countries. But at least take that money, prepare yourself physically, with technology and everything, so if that wave of poaching comes, you're ready. And use that money for education, use that money for doing that. But it's no use, these horns, these tons and tons. Look at John Hume, the story with John Hume. Look at the tons that he has in a safe. Go to all the different park sports. I don't say flood the market. I would just say, just put the demand there and crush the middleman, because once they can't pay someone to do the job, their whole structure falls apart. But if I can have armed guards on my property 24 hours a day, and I can have my thermal cameras, and I can install all of that, make it merely impossible for them to enter your property. For every rhino, like I said, also for every cow that you save is a potential, another, in her lifetime, another 10 calves. And that's what I just say, even Robbie, and it's a very easy mathematical question. The park sport did it those days. They expanded the habitat, or they expanded the population of rhino by giving farmers rhinos. And it is very easy to say, if you make that just a plain calculation, if I would give you 10% interest on your investment, and we would drop down the rhino value to a kilo. At the moment, it stands at $70,000-80,000 a kilo. Drop it down to $20,000 a kilo. And if I would say I'll give you 10% on your investment, that means that cow must be $200,000 worth, because she produces about a kilo a year. She grows it back. So if you make only that calculation, that rhino gets more valuable alive than dead. More people.
Isn't that the key? Is the key right now? A rhino is worth more dead than alive.
Correct.
100%.
So more people, if you think about it, at this moment, we need to boom the numbers again, like Parks put it in those days. So if you give people the incentive to farm the rhino, and really build up the stocks. If you can get investment like that, I will chop down 3 hectares of timber and plant grass there and keep a rhino, because it will be more valuable than 3 hectares of a monoculture eucalyptus trees. I would restore nature again to keep rhinos, because it's a lucrative business. Yes, I know people say wildlife shouldn't be a commodity, it shouldn't be traded, but I think we get to that point, we need to build up numbers again to secure the species.
But aren't we doing that already with all the other species?
No, sure.
Aren't we game farming impala and blesbuck and giraffe and waterbuck and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I always tell clients, it's always funny for them. They'll say, shooting a rhino is nasty or it's not right or something, while there's an impala on the back. And I always say, let's look at the bontebok, the black wildebeest, everything that gets conserved, but at what stage does it then lose its, niche to it? When is it not nice anymore because something else is more threatened?
Yeah. And just to get back to that whole, if I take my father grew up on a cattle farm, sheep, maize and timber. And when I told my father I want to start a hunting business, my father just turned 91 now. He's one of the stubborn, old, hardcore guys. And he asked me, he said, just tell me, who's going to be so stupid to travel 10,000 kilometers from Germany to come here to shoot a bloody blesbuck? That was his question to me. He said, who does something like that? Who wastes that money to come shoot a blesbuck? I said, Dad, there are people like that. And it took me a good 25 years until then. You as a man also, how proud you are if your dad pats you on your back and he says, you made it.
100%.
You did it. And he told me a couple of years ago, I never thought this shit would work. And I proved it to him, and there are a lot of people in that sense. I understand people that have. I showed that video to a friend of ours last night at a braai, and he was, his mouth was hanging open. But it's even people in South Africa, living in a bubble, having jobs in Cape Town or working in Johannesburg, that have no idea about this. They are just not confronted with this. And that's why I understand the green people or the anti-hunters. I understand them completely. And every time I have arguments with them on the European shows, I'm not arguing with you. I'm asking you for a solution. Why don't you take your money, buy a farm in Africa, and prove it to me that your way of thinking is working? I said, then the proof is in the pudding. Just put your money where your mouth is. Is it easy as that? Don't argue with me. As my system is working at the moment. If you think you have a better one, prove it to me. Don't give me a Farmville computer game to say this is how it would work. I said, because the animal doesn't think like that. You can't copy and paste the animal into a camp. It just doesn't work like that.
Colin, those interactions with people, what are they saying is the solution? I'm assuming these people are the same kind of people that are saying no, do not legalize the horn trade.
Yeah, it's you have, I don't know, I've never been to the shows in the States, but in Europe, especially in the central part of Germany, Dortmund and those places, you find a lot of people demonstrating, and then they come into the hall, and the animal activists and things like that, and they, first of all, hunting is totally off limits for them. We as people in the modern age don't need that anymore. We don't need to hunt. It's a bloody sport activity that people are that want to prove something to the society are doing. You know all these sayings that people have, and but if I asked them, I said, "Give me a solution." It's like asking a child to hand you a crayon. I don't know. It's you just don't get the right response, and they just have no idea, and I have a lot of video clips on social media as well, where the guys were filmed. I've invited these anti-hunters and the anti-cruelty people from Germany, and they've come to my property. I think we've had 4 or 5 crews already coming there. I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to sponsor your accommodation, your food, and everything. But at the end of the day, you must be man enough to tell me if you could not prove me wrong. There's not one show where they could say I was wrong, and most of them ended up saying, "Yes, I'm not approving what you do, but I can't argue against it." So
well, that's what we want at the end of the day, right? We want someone to say, "I don't like hunting, but I get it."
Yeah.
I don't like hunting, but I understand it. I don't like hunting, but I see the benefit of it. I don't like hunting, but I see people benefiting from it.
Yeah. But they are not willing to put their necks out to say, all right, I want to prove to you there is other way. They're all these, like we call them keyboard warriors or emoji throwers or whatever like that. It's just amazing that every year where you go to the shows, there's a new group of anti-cruelty people. They keep on breeding. I don't know where they're coming from. I'm really trying. You think you're sorting out an area or a city or something like that, and next year there's a new group there. I don't know. Somewhere we need to put some scissors in.
Carlo, in terms of the future, what is rhino conservation like right now on the market? Like, are people? I think you mentioned earlier in that video, like there's half the rhino owners today that there was 10 years ago, 15 years ago,
even less. If I just take, and that area roughly, if you go from the Free State, if you start in Ladysmith, you travel down to Newcastle, Dundee, Vryheid, towards Pongola. If I just look at that whole system there, every second farm had a bunch of rhinos there a couple of years ago. There were 3, there were 5, there were 8. And 80% of that population's gone. People sold them off. They just don't want them anymore. They were hammered by poaching. So the pressure is getting more severe as time goes on. For every farm owner that gets rid of his rhino, the pressure moves to the next farm. And from that whole road there, that whole 300 kilometers from Ladysmith right through to Pongola, we are, I think, it's 4 farms left that have rhinos. That's it. And
how many do you think were there 15 years ago?
They said you had a population of 200, just over 200 rhinos, 250 rhinos. And I think if you take that stretch now, there's just over 50, between 50 and 60 left. It's crazy. It's
all because they have no value.
Yeah, and all because the risk is too high. People just don't want to spend that money. It's just not viable anymore.
Yeah, it's just not viable anymore.
I mean, there was that farm outside of Pongola. They had, 62 rhinos, 68 rhinos. And the pressure just got too bad. And he sold off all of his rhino. That's 70 rhino out of our system in our area. That's very sad.
Yeah, that's just Pongola area. Yeah. That's not even counting, the higher lying areas.
Carlo, you've been in the rhino selling game for a while. Tell me about the guy that just sold his 62 rhinos. What kind of value is he getting on those rhinos? I assume not much.
No, this was a couple of years ago when he sold it, and the rhino prices were lingering. For a whole bunch of rhinos was about $25,000 a head. Okay. But if you go now, if you look back to it and at auctions now, I think there was on Sandpark's auction in the beginning of the year, they had black rhino bulls for sale. no one wanted them. The highest offer was $4,000.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Could you track, if I say to you, Carlo, can you tell me, remember, maybe you have some receipts, maybe you got, just maybe it's based on memory, what white rhino and black rhino prices were in, say, 2010 to today?
2010, let's say, yeah, about 2010, I remember clearly, I purchased a rhino female with a female calf, and I paid for her at that time, converted into dollars today, about $45,000 for that female calf package. And if I would sell that now or try to sell that now, you might, if you're lucky, get 10,000 for that.
Shit. 4-time drop in value.
Yeah. So if you just, my calculation is like this: if you take per 1,000 hectares, you would need about staff or just guys, boots on the ground. You would need about 6 guards, and that alone would cost you about 150,000 rand. Let's say $7,000 a month. So make your
1,000 hectares.
For per 1,000 hectares. So you're looking already at $80,000 for a year to protect 1,000 hectares. Let's say with the population of 20 rhinos on that would be able to sustain it. So there you go. You're stuffed. There's no way.
The equation's upside down.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. But take 20 rhinos, harvest 10 kilos at 20,000.
Yeah. I'm here.
So
something just happened.
Yeah, my daughter phoned.
Okay, hold on. Let me just stop it and start it again, just in case.